Bobby. What the hell happened, man? What's up, guys? We're here on the Panthers Seahawks post game. I'm getting tired of this, man. I'm ready to talk about Graham Gano today. I see a lot of the comments are already filing in about the season's over. Wild card certainly at play. 3 games left against the NFC South, or 4 games left against the NFC South. 2 of them against New Orleans. Really kind of doom and gloom right now, Bobby, but can we at least talk about Graham Gano today?
We could definitely talk about Graham Gano and the fact that we're not 8-3 and we're 6-5 right now. We could definitely discuss that.
And don't get me wrong, you shouldn't. You can give me the argument of.
I won't.
No, I was gonna say you shouldn't leave the game to your kicker. It's all you mentioned. It's always a easy guy to blame. But what was my comment last week? Graham Gano always misses the ones he needs to hit. And whenever the pressure's on, this happens. I'm not surprised. I don't know. I mean, I guess you can't really blame the game on him. Should have put it in the end zone a few times. You can obviously talk about the Cam pick. A couple questionable calls in that game. First of all, some of the overturns. Seahawks getting that first down. I don't know if they got it. And here we are again with a monster game by Cam, a monster game by Christian McCaffrey, and putting up 27 points and not being able to win this game. Where do you start with the blame on this one?
I mean, the blame is only in one spot, and it's Ron Rivera. There is no reason, and absolutely no reason, why you can go for it in the first quarter, and you freeze Gano on the sideline, and you give Cam Newton the opportunity to convert on 4th down in the first quarter, which, by the way, he did get, which probably changed the course of this game. But you go away from Cam Newton. You go away from somebody who was 25 of 30, 256, 2 touchdowns. You go away from him in the point of the game that makes Cam Newton great. These are the moments that Cam Newton excels. The beginning of his career, he failed at these points. Last season, this season, he has become a killer in these moments, and you go away from your quarterback in this moments. He hasn't been able to be stopped, period, this season.
When you say go away, you mean him on the ground, or?
No. You take the ball out of his hands, whether you chose to draw it up on the ground, you chose to draw it up through the air. They couldn't stop DJ Moore. He caught 8 out of 9. They couldn't stop Christian McCaffrey. He caught 11 out of 11. They couldn't stop Cam Newton. He ran 8 times for 63 yards, carrying it for almost 8 yards a carry. You do not take the ball out of your best playmaker's hands to put it into the hands of somebody who lost you the game last week and who won't hesitate to miss. Like, let's get to the point. Nobody was surprised at what Graham Gano did today, were we? Did anybody say they were surprised?
I wasn't.
You can't be surprised at this point.
I mean, it's nice that he hit his extra points today. That was nice of him. But again, every time he lines up for that field goal, I say he's going to miss this. That's just how I am. It's how I've been over the years. That's why I don't care that he was 29 of his last, whatever field goals in the first quarter, and he's had a couple game winners. Fine, but that's still a long kick. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but I'm just going to stand here and say I'm not surprised at all, Bobby. That's what I've been talking about forever. I almost wish he missed an extra point in this game so that I could really go off on him. But here we are again, talking about a kick. So going through some of these comments. Hey, let's talk about this one. Please explain to me how on earth this team makes the playoffs at this point, Bobby. What happens here?
You know what? I'm going to be completely honest. You're talking about playoffs. I don't even know if we'll finish over 500. We're a terrible team on the road. Okay, we've only won 1 game on the road, and that was a luck of the draw in Philly. We go to Tampa Bay, we go to Cleveland. I believe we come back home for Atlanta.
You have 2 home games left, and they're against the Falcons and the Saints. I mean, you could very well say those are both losses.
I mean, I don't want to. These
are supposed to be the wins.
Right. I mean, here's what I'm frustrated about. Everybody's talking playoffs. I'm talking finishing the season above 500, because that's where my mind is right now. We've never had back-to-back seasons. We're winning back-to-back seasons, and now it's starting to show its ugly head again. And this is not a surprise to me. When we were 6-2, I told myself, I said, you know what? I have a feeling something weird is about to happen. You could feel it. It's almost like you could feel it. And sure enough, we lose one, we lose two, and then we come into Carolina today, have a great game by the offense. And with all for everyone blaming the defense, let's keep it real. Our defense was not bad. They were the number one rushing offense in football. We held them to 75 rushing yards. Granted, Russell Wilson did have 339. A lot of that was in the fourth quarter. And please understand, they were trying to win that game, so of course they're going to chuck the ball through the air. The issue was Dante Jackson not being in there. Mm-hmm. That was our issue today. Captain Munderland and Corn Elder were more like clam chowder today. Like they were getting eaten up all day. So here's what I'm looking at this point. I'm looking at the fact that we may not even reach 500, yet alone playoffs. I don't even want to discuss playoffs. As I said last week, we are not a playoff team. So, these are not the games that playoff teams lose.
So the 500 curse rearing its ugly head here.
It is.
I mean, yeah, Jackson leaving that game, if Jackson's in that game, this game might not even be close. I mean, really, the only success that Seattle had was on that either left or usually the left, but sometimes the right side of the field where Captain and Corn were just coming in and out. I kind of felt a little better with Captain over there. And the funny thing is, as I said, I wanted to see Corn play in this game. I definitely didn't mean I wanted to see Corn play as the second cornerback. I meant as more of kind of put him in the slot sometimes. He's very good against screens. He's very good in the backfield. He's very good at the line of scrimmage. Clearly not very good running down the field with a receiver yet, and maybe that's why we don't see him out in the field that much.
Right. I mean, somebody tweeted at me earlier and was like, oh, you wanted Corn Elder. Listen, asshat, I wanted Corn Elder in the slot. I didn't say to guard the number one or number two receiver. I'm talking about playing his position in the slot, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's what we're looking at Corn Elder to do. And that's honestly Captain Munderland's job too. They're just slot corners. That's it. They're just slot DBs. They're not outside coverage DBs. And we saw it today. Like, we saw those guys get burnt. And it was just horrible. I mean, gash yardage, man. Gash yardage, and that has been the MO for the downfall of our defense this year. Gash runs, gash yardage from throws. It has been repetitive, and it's been the only consistent thing on this team.
You know, one of the things we talk about a lot is Eric Washington. A couple comments coming in here. For the love of God, fire Eric Washington. I don't know how much you can put on him today.
You can't put this game on him.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He still has a lot of questions over the whole season. But I think today, that's a big hit when you take with Dante Jackson coming out of the game. Bradbury even let up a big play over his head, too. So if you want to start, talking about the cornerbacks, Bradbury even let one up, too. Dealt with a lot this game. Dante Jackson, Mike Adams left the game for a little bit. Eric Reed had a couple stingers, couple weird plays in this game. I mean, you look back early in the game, and there were a couple fumbles that I think McCaffrey, the one on the goal line, Jarius Wright fumbled the ball. You could argue that a lot of things went our way as well to still stay in that game. But I don't know if you can put this on Eric Washington. I think he did a great job today with the blitz. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it was in the fourth quarter. It would have been nice to have a nice sack on that 4th and 3. Seems like a lot of time to give up on a 4th and 3.
I agree.
Wilson was back there for a while looking for that pass. And, it is nice that we didn't rush 2 linemen, though. I mean, that's a step forward, right?
Yeah, it's a step forward. But, I mean, it's looking at this defense, it's tough to say they weren't the reason. It was one guy being gone, man. Dante Jackson is the reason we lost this game. Him being injured is the reason. And, I thought the defense played well. Wes Horton, he had a knucklehead penalty, but Wes Horton, Peppers, Brian Cox Jr., Mario Addison, those guys, Shaq Thompson, those guys created great pressure today. They made Russell get rid of the ball. They made him throw the ball before he wanted to. They made him throw it out of bounds. They kept him on the run. May not have had as many sacks as we like. We only had 2 sacks today, but they kept that guy running. We had 5 quarterback hits today, which is good. Julius had 2 of them. We applied pressure well. The problem was guys were getting open fast, and that was the problem. We were off 8 to 12 yards.
That's what happened. Even when Jackson's in there, there was a play on Munderland on a big. It was a second in like 7 or something, and Munderland wasn't even 10 yards within his guy, at the line. I mean, so. I don't know, man. And, That whole fourth drive, I don't know. I was looking for a bigger play than that DJ Moore. I know the second down was kind of tough. Cam rolling out, had to throw that one away. I think that was a big – I expected them to just run the ball and try like a Graham Gano 62-yard field goal. You know what I mean? Like kind of the conservative verse going for the home run punch or hit, however you want to word that. Would have been nice to see one of those big plays to Moore or something more downfield, and it's very – very conservative play calling on that fourth down. So I don't know. 3 losses in a row here, Bobby. When's the last time we could say that?
It's been a while, man.
I mean, even in 2016, I don't know if we actually had 3 in a row. Maybe we did.
I know we took 2 in a row, but I can't remember if it was 3 or not, man. I'm starting to look at starting the third quarter flat. That is starting to become a trend, and it has been a trend. So it's not even becoming. It is a trend for us. And, the way we started, I mean, Cam started that quarter 14-14. His first pass was a dud. Then he threw an interception, I believe, on that same drive. Ron Rivera has to stop trying to be Muhammad Ali. For those of you who don't know about Muhammad Ali, he would let the opposing boxer. Yeah, he would let them tire themselves out. He would just lean up against the rope, lean up against the buckle, and he would let them tire themselves out. Punch away, punch away, punch away. And next thing you know, he would just come swinging because he held all of his energy, and he would just come out swinging. And this is football, man.
Yeah.
This isn't strategic boxing. You have to go for kills. You cannot let people hang around for the sake of being cute and trying to play this football game. Ron Rivera, if he does not reach 10 wins this season, there is no reason he is still coaching on the sideline for the Carolina Panthers next season. People may say, who's going to replace him? That I don't know, because I don't know who will be the open and available options come next season. But it's almost like a chess game with him. Football is not chess. It's actually checkers. It's simple. You score on offense, you stop the team on defense. Yeah. That's it. It's not chess. It's checkers, and he wants to create this atmosphere as if it's still 1985 and we're watching the Bears. It's just not that anymore. We have to go for the kill while we can. There's too much complacency. There's too much conservative attitudes, and lackadaisical approach to the third quarter is killing us. And again, if Ron does not reach 10 wins this season, there is no reason under God's son that he's still here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Panthers are a team that would fire Ron mid-season, so I wouldn't expect that unless things get really bad here. But you look at these stats today, and they have all the signs of a big win. I mean, Cam 25 of 30, 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he did have the pick there. McCaffrey has 125 yards on the ground, 112 in the air, 2 touchdowns. They punted, I think, once in the first half. Mm-hmm. I mean, these aren't signs of a loss like that, right? And I don't know what was up with the red zone play calls early in the game. Probably could have put a lot more points on the board. Probably put this game away a little earlier.
Yeah.
But really just kind of let Seattle in this game. I don't know what that offense is. Granted, maybe the fourth quarter shut me up a little bit with Christian McCaffrey, but when you're inside the 20, the 15, I don't know what that 3 carries up the middle McCaffrey offense is. But it's got to go. When they start rolling, I guess maybe it's to set it up later with that Samuel reverse and all that. But I think they could have started early. They could have started fast, something they still say that they always want to do, but never can do. Today, when they came, the first drive down the field was how I expected them to come out in Detroit, even on defense. And they were just completely flat there. And today, they just couldn't put points on the board. So,
right.
I don't know. 5 games left here. What do you got? 3 on the road. Again, those are New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Cleveland. The way this team's playing right now, are you comfortable?
What are we winning for?
What's up?
What are we winning for on the road?
1 in however many they've played. They have 1 win, and it was in Philly, and that was kind of a lucky one too.
Yeah, I mean. Listen, I don't know if, and I told you this, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Den. I said I'm worried about the game that we play against Cleveland because they've been doing whatever they wanted to do. in their offensive game, and it's because they were running a new offense. And it's unexpected. It's unpredictable. Nobody knows what they're going to do. They're still trying plays to this date. Their offensive coordinator and their head coach said that they haven't even figured out what they're going to do on offense. So if they haven't figured it out and they're putting up points, they just blasted the Bengals today. Yeah. Not saying we're the Bengals, but good gosh, man. Those guys are looking unstoppable right now. And if we're playing against a team that doesn't even know what they're going to bring out, then how do we prepare? How do we plan? I mean, you have to take a look at teams like Cleveland. That's a question mark. Tampa Bay, who Jameis Winston looked okay today. We're on the road in Tampa Bay, and I don't know if you guys know, but, on the road in Tampa Bay isn't a guaranteed win for those who feel like we can beat Tampa Bay just because it's Tampa Bay. That's not a guaranteed win. Then you take a look at coming home against New Orleans, which scares the hell out of me. Then you look at what was it? Was it home against New Orleans, and then it's home against Atlanta, and then we go to New Orleans.
Yes.
Those last 3 games we could very well go 0-3. Yeah. Very well go 0-3.
I mean, right now on paper, you can make fun of Atlanta all you want. I was making fun of them in the red zone today, but that is one of the losses the Panthers have this year. So
yeah, week 2. And to be completely honest, we already know. We know firsthand how Atlanta loves to spoil things for us. Oh. I don't know if you guys remember, 15-1 season, that one loss was to ATL and ATL. Guys, Atlanta would love nothing more than for playoff implications to be on that game and for them to shut that down for us. They would play, they would get up and look like a Super Bowl team against us that game just to stop us. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, if it comes down to the game in Nolens, hopefully they have nothing to play for and they sit Drew Brees. Maybe we can luck up.
I was thinking about that. They would never do that, especially against the Panthers. Like, if the Panthers had to win the game to make the to make the playoffs, and even though New Orleans had clinched, Sean Payton's an ass. He would run the score up if he could on that game.
He really would.
I don't expect anyone sitting against the Panthers in those last 3 games. New Orleans, Atlanta, New Orleans. So get some hot takes coming in here in the comments. We're going 6-10. What do you think about that, Bobby? Losing all the rest of the games?
A lot of people want us to lose the rest of the games. I'm not one of those people. People are thinking about draft picks at this point. I don't think there's I think we need to address defensive end, maybe bringing a cornerback and a safety, maybe even a running back. I don't think there's a defensive end or a cornerback or a safety that you should be worried about tanking for. This isn't a draft where you got once in a lifetime, generational talent coming out, and we don't need a quarterback. So I don't really see them tanking at all. I don't want my team to tank. We're not in a position.
Well, I think that people say that because as little the chance is to make the playoffs, the chance to win in the playoffs is even smaller. I mean, maybe you get in and you play a team like Washington or Dallas, you get that win. But all you got to do is get to the dance. I get it.
Right. I mean,
but
we went 7-8-1.
Is pretty crowded right now.
It was crowded when we went 7-8-1. We were fighting our asses to get off. I mean, why would we be 6-5 and quit? I mean, I don't get it. Like, I understand if there's somebody you're setting up to get in the draft. Like, there's nobody in the top 15 that we need. This isn't a draft that great talent is coming out of. If we're talking about great talent coming out of the draft and, oh my gosh, we have to replace Julius Peppers with this guy from this college. If that's the case, then maybe, we can start talking. But nobody's giving me names. They're just giving me what ifs. Mm-hmm. And I can guarantee you there's nobody in Carolina right now who's thinking about the draft. They're thinking about how they can get in the dance, how they can pull out a win next week. And that should be the focus right now, the season versus the draft. Because if we were, let's just say, maybe 4-7, then maybe we shouldn't be looking at going 9-7. But we're 6-5. We have an opportunity to go 11-5. As much as we don't think that's possible, it's a chance.
Ron was just at the podium talking about how there's a potential of XXX. It's like, come on, Ron. I mean,
well, he says the same thing.
You got to come up with something else. We're just done hearing that. Like, Panthers. Trust me, I want them to. They will not win the rest of all of their games. They will not do that. There's no 0% chance that they win the next 5 games.
Actually, I would give it maybe a 10 to 15% chance.
I'm still sitting at 0. I don't know, but hey, this is something that we talked about, Bob. You got a comment here. Wish Ross Cockrell didn't get hurt. I think he had potential. Not only did he have potential, I think he had a pretty big place in this game today.
Yes.
When you start talking about DB depth, would have been nice to have Cockrell here. I hope that he's in this. I mean, granted, we haven't seen him play, but I would hope that he would at least be in the team's future. I don't know off the top of my head what they signed him for as far as a deal. But you can't. You just saw that right now you can't afford an injury in the secondary. I mean, even knock on wood. I mean, even I'm just going around the names. I mean, even Mike Adams, Eric Reed. I mean, that changes this team. As good as they're not playing now, there's no chance if you don't have those guys out there. And we saw part of that with Dante Jackson. So I think Ross Cockrell's a big name to keep in mind. Kind of a bad break for those Panthers, and even Breland. People like that, instead of having to put Captain out on the outside, having to put Korn out there, it's just not the person you need out there with someone like Russell Wilson extending the play, especially.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, guys, going into camp, Ross Cockrell was supposed to be our number one. But before he got hurt, he signed a 2-year deal with us for $6.6 million. So he will be on the roster hopefully next season. He's not an unrestricted free agent until 2020. I look forward to seeing how we utilize him, because I believe him being on the roster next season, and of course Dante Jackson and Bradbury, I believe that gives us, and possibly Quan Elder, we'll see how that works out. I believe that gives us more versatility at the DB position to handle situations like this. But when you have a guy who was going to be your number one, what did he break his leg for the season? And then you have a guy who becomes your number one go out for the game. This is how you're going to look. It's not a surprise, guys. Technically our number one got hurt for the season, and the guy who replaced him, who's a draft pick rookie, he got hurt for the game. Yeah. This is what you're going to see. It's not a surprise. Basically, if you pretend as if Cockrell was playing right now, we were down to our third string cornerbacks. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen.
I mean, this is the first time that Cockrell injury, I think, really reared its head into a Panthers regular season game. You saw how thin they are at DB. We've had pretty good luck with Bradbury and Jackson. The bright side of it is I don't think that Jackson's injury is that serious. I think that he'll be back in there to maybe go on this 5-game run that everyone's very unoptimistic about. But I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. I'm questionable about. Yeah, I'm questionable about how we handle injuries. I've never felt, since Ron Rivera's been here, there's always been questions about who's really injured, how injured they are, how did we handle the injury, and it's really weird because Dante Jackson hurt himself last week, so I wonder if that has anything to do with what happened this week when he came in on that blitz, and I think somebody fell on top of him, and I really want to know what's up. And I really wish these Carolina Panther reporters and media would stop acting like sissies, man. Like, ask the questions. Stop being afraid of Ron Rivera. Ask him.
What questions would you ask him?
What were you thinking letting Graham Gano kick the field goal to end the game versus the first quarter? I would also like to hear.
So hold on there. So what were you saying? Were you saying they should have punted that ball?
No, I think they should have went for it.
Ooh, okay.
I think they should have went for it.
It was fourth and
3.
Was it 3? Because they gave more of that catch, right? I know they were reviewing it.
They gave more of that catch, and I believe he was 3 or 4 yards away from the first down.
Yeah.
So it may have been like 4th and 5. I don't know. I'll go back and check. But regardless of what I wanted to do, I want them to ask him questions, and I want them to treat him the same way they treat Cam Newton. When they ask Cam a question and he doesn't respond the way that they like for him to respond, or something that doesn't give them headlines, they'll just rephrase the question. But with Ron Rivera, he can say, no, missed opportunities, and then move on to the next question. It's like, come on, man. Like, I don't care about what type of T-shirt Ron Rivera has. I don't care about the guy who prints his T-shirts. I don't care about the response of missed opportunities. I care about the fact that now for 8 seasons, you've been this head coach, and we've gotten the same exact response from you. You cannot man up to the mistakes that you make on the field. You cannot man up to why your coaching staff calls the calls that they call. You cannot man up to why you made the decisions you made, and yet we keep getting the same response from you. But when it's on Cam Newton, you got to say Cam has to be better in that situation. But when it comes to anybody else, you don't say anything. You take no credit. The only person on this coaching staff that capes for Cam Newton is Norv Turner. He is the only person who will protect the name of Cam Newton. But Ron Rivera gets up there and gives the same answers to the media week in, week out, multiple times a week. I watch every presser from Ron Rivera. He gives no different answer ever. The same response every single time, and they deal with it and they take it. And that's why he continues to be how he is, because there is no repercussion for how he acts and how he responds to things.
And the other thing about Ron is his attitude never changes either. He could lose 52-14 or 10-7, and he's up there all kind of chippy. And I just feel like that gives off a weird vibe too. Like he doesn't. I don't know. I don't want to say he doesn't care, but I think that when you have a coach up there that doesn't like show your emotion a little bit, show them on the field, show them off the field. I don't know. I don't know how much that goes into his them letting him slide, is because he always answers their questions in like a polite way. But
I don't know, man. I just think it's really weird how Ron Rivera can show up to a press conference, multiple press conferences after you lose with a smile on your face, and he's the one that's serious. But Cam Newton can't even play around in practice, and the whole world says he's a child. He doesn't take the game serious. But you got a head coach, a Super Bowl visiting head coach, who can get blown out, who can lose by 3. But he's going to show up with a smirk on his face saying, oh, the season's not over, guys. We got 5 games left. What are you talking about? Yeah. Do you know who we play in those 5 games? Can I get you to be serious? Can I get a feeling or emotion from you that you care?
The thing that I said, I think it was a week ago, I said the worst that they can do is go 3-1 in this stretch, and now they're already 0-2. And he's up there talking about how they have a lot of opportunities ahead of them to win out. And I just, when do the opportunities end? Like, I think they ended today, honestly. I think that you see a team that is going to get into the playoffs by luck, by someone losing. They're certainly not going to do it themselves. And it's tough to watch. Now, 3 games in a row here. Today was the only normal one, really. I mean, you had the 52, points up in Pittsburgh. You had the hair ripping out questionable call in Detroit. I mean, you say that they could have went for it on that 4th down. I don't know. I think today was a little more of a football game, but
right.
Just I don't know who you can really blame besides I don't know. I guess you could blame Gano if you want. If you want to talk about his 100% in for field goals and his October special teams player of the month that I always rip down. And I just don't think that Graham Gano is a player that I can trust. I was thinking, though, Bobby, I picked Seattle to cover this game because it was 3.5, and I said Carolina will win by a field goal and we'll have Graham Gano on the podcast. And I was like getting all pumped up for it. I was like, wow, we might have to actually make this happen, but nope, here we are. So
it's just I see someone say that they see 10-6, and someone and Dieter said from 6-2 to 6-5, and that's just unfortunately who we are, guys. Like, we have to accept the fact that we're not as good as we think we are. And I said it on Twitter last week, and it pissed a couple of people off. But let's just be honest, we're not as good as we think we are. And I know some people are upset about the officiating, but let's keep it real. The officiating in this game, there were some questionable calls, but we had an opportunity to win the game, and we didn't. And as pissed as I was about officiating, I saw about 4 or 5 calls that we didn't get and we should have, and a couple that were against us that shouldn't have been. But we had an opportunity to win the game. And let's just be honest, we're not a good team, and we have to stop thinking because we have good players that we're a good team. That's not the case. The Browns have had some really good players come through their organization, but they haven't been a good team. We're not a good team, and it starts from the top, guys. And we have to start pointing fingers at Ron and stop pointing fingers at guys like Cam for one mistake in the game, or guys like DJ because he fell down a little bit too early on the route. Like, guys, you really have to understand that this is starting to come from the top. We are seeing consistency with not being available in the 3rd quarter. We're seeing consistency with not being able to close big games. What makes you a championship team is closing the games like today. And we can't do it. We can't do it.
Well, there is, seeing a comment here, there is part, well, actually, let me speak to this one first, the one that's up on the screen. As far as the officiating, I think the one big call that I did not like was Cam going for it on 4th down. I still don't understand how he wasn't past the marker, but they also called him down on forward progress when he was behind his own guys. Like, how do you get forward progress when you're not being tackled?
Right.
I don't get it. So that one blew my mind. But as far as there's another comment in there about this being on the players, this being on DJ, this being on Cam's interception, this being on Graham's missed field goal. So there is that as well. I think that there certainly is stuff on the players. We're not going to say this was all coaches. But, put this comment up here. I do think the Panthers were playing for 3 on that final drive. Would you not agree with that?
Oh, it was clear. It was clear they were playing for 3.
The first down around the 50 was just a kind of a Cam. I wasn't even really a QB power. It was one of those Cam dance arounds where you could almost see them trying to get the ball in the middle of the field.
Right,
it's like,
right.
oh, we're in 54 yards out. Let's just get this in for Graham. They're talking about how he's been kicking him in practice. And it's like, I don't care about that because the Rams and the Chiefs would have already been kicking off from the touchdown they scored on first down. So you don't play the 7-6 games. We got to stop playing for 3. This team can put it in the end zone. They kind of showed it today. They showed they can at least get down there. We don't need to be dancing around between the 49 and 55-yard field goal at the end of the game. Don't put it on Graham. I'll blame Graham, but also don't put it on him, I think that could have very easily been a 7 at the end of the game. That really put the pressure on Seattle because I don't think that, especially the drive before. Christian McCaffrey had the entire drive himself. It's not like they were like overpowering you defensively and you didn't lose any offensive players at that point. You had the same offense. You had plenty of time to drive the field. It's just you just didn't do it. You got right down to that Graham Gano long field goal, and you did the run. Obviously, Cam rolls out. Maybe not the best play call there. And then you throw a drag to DJ.
Right.
They're not attacking that. I do have a little bit of a problem with that. So
yeah, I definitely got a problem with that, especially when you've watched. And that's the thing that pisses me off about Rivera. Like, you watched your offense do whatever they wanted to do. And somehow you took the ball out of your offense's hand. That's the thing that irritates me about it. Like, you watch them do whatever they wanted to do, and then you don't trust them, and you trust the guy that lost you the game last week. And I get showing confidence in your player, but at some point you got to show confidence in your MVP as well. You got to show confidence in one of the greatest offensive players I've ever seen, which is Christian McCaffrey. You have to show confidence in those guys, and you have to understand that the only time you should be kicking a field goal when the game is on the line is if you've done everything you could do on offense and you have no choice now.
Well, I comment up on the screen here, defense has to get off the field. They're creating nothing for the offense to work with. I think that with the 2015 Panthers, turnovers were just happen all the time, right? This defense, the only thing that's kind of been keeping them alive is turnovers, and there aren't many at all anymore. But, at first drive, fine. There was a couple of times they backed them up on their own on the goal line, but besides that, we've been seeing teams just move the ball down the field and then pin the Panthers deep again. And I think that the defense, it's a great point. Defense has to get off the field earlier. They have to make these stops in their own zone because this offense is just dealing with long fields, and there's great plays to get down there, but it's almost like once the Panthers are in the red zone, they've kind of exhausted all their zone reads, all their deep plays, all their fakes. Yeah. That it's just kind of predictable. They kind of run out of plays because it's taking them so many plays to score. And I think that is a big problem. So,
yeah, it's I believe Dante Jackson has 4 interceptions this season, and he's a ball hawk. And guys like Julius Peppers have been one of the primary reasons for our pressure outside of Mario Addison. And when you ask a defense who has really one guy who's the reason for your interceptions, when you ask your defense to perform without him and you ask your defense to get you turnovers, it's just not going to happen. We did have a fumble that bounced out of bounds. I believe we had 2 fumbles that they got back. Mm-hmm. But, the thing is, we're not that team anymore. And we're not evolving to no longer being a defensive-minded team. Yeah. We're not evolving to the offense. And the more you say I'm going to let my field goal kicker win it and my defense play pressure, we're going to continue to lose. We're not a playoff team. We're not a Super Bowl team. We are a middle of the pack team at this point.
Right now.
And we got to find a way. Yeah, we got to find a way to be better. We got to find a way to be greater. And I don't think that happens unless somebody has a conversation with Ron Rivera this week, next week, and let him know you need to make the playoffs.
I think that if the Panthers miss the playoffs this year, do you fire Ron?
You have to.
You think so?
And with all due respect to, let's not get anything twisted. Ron Rivera is possibly on his way. If he were to coach 5 or 6, 7 more years, he could possibly be on his way to be a Hall of Fame head coach with his with the numbers he has. If he were to win one Super Bowl, maybe. But
I guess you don't need one, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his overall playoff appearances, what he's done, how he's coached, things of that nature, he's very well Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame candidate, should I say. I respect Ron. I respect his approach to the game. I respect his football mind, but that doesn't mean he's supposed to linger around because he's a good guy. If I were a good guy, I'd still be at my first job. You can't keep somebody around because they're a nice person or they have a good football mind. You have to put people in the position to win. If Jerry Richardson were still here, I would fully expect Ron Rivera back next season if he didn't make the playoffs. Dave Tepper is used to winning. He's a part of an organization that has 6 rings. He was a part of the organization that has 6 rings. He knows what it's like. He knows that feeling. From day one, he's come in and done what he wanted to do to make the fans happy. Not only himself, but his staff, his organization, and the fans happy. And he's about football. He's made that clear. He's about winning. And I don't see how Ron Rivera will be here not making the playoffs. If Ron Rivera is here next season and we don't make the playoffs, I would be very, very upset.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things this week, and get a comment here that says, Bobby's right, we haven't evolved at all. What coaching changes are next? I think that comment that Ron made this week about how he likes 7-6 football, I get that. I get that he was on the 85 Bears. I get that he's defensive minded. He's a linebacker. Kuechly's kind of his like poster boy football player. But at the same time, you think if you're David Tepper, you're like, yeah, that's cool, but I don't want to play that football. Dave Tepper wants to be the guy that's scoring 52 points a game, right?
Right. I mean, even when he was in Pittsburgh, they had a great defense, but they still cared about scoring. So it wasn't like they just leaned solely on defense. I don't think Dave Tepper doesn't even though I've never heard him say it, but he doesn't strike me as a guy who settles. He just doesn't strike me as that guy. And Ron Rivera, to me, probably fired himself with that comment. I think that was so dumb to say.
It was a weird thing to say after that game.
Especially after you gave, after the way you lost, and then the previous week, like you don't make that comment because then you have people around you that start to say, "Oh, that's why."
If you didn't, the comment's bad enough, but when you lose 52-14 and then you make the comment a week after, it's even worse. So,
right, it's really bad, and I hope there's no politics behind Ron Rivera still being here because if that's the case, then it'll make it harder to cut ties with them. So. And I just think the game has passed him by. Maybe he would probably be a great defensive coordinator, probably be an excellent defensive coordinator. But as far as, head coach, I don't see it anymore.
A few more comments here. Wow, the time flies when you're doing these things, huh? It's hey, quick question here. Why do the Panthers go deep? Is it because of the receiver's height? No Funches today, of course. Have the guys that can spread the field. I honestly think that they just don't have the time a lot of times. I just don't think that Cam has the time that someone like Jared Goff or Mahomes. I know they do extend plays, but is that why they don't go? Whether you don't see the Panthers going deep down the field a lot? Is it we're a very yak team, which I like? But if someone asks you, Bobby, why don't you see deep passes from the Panthers a lot?
My response would be to them, if you have Game Pass, please access it and go back and tell me on average how long Cam Newton has to pass the ball.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of people keep saying, oh, man, Seattle had no sacks today. Well, that doesn't mean he didn't happen to get the ball out at the right time. Not having sacks doesn't mean there wasn't pressure. Not having sacks doesn't mean there wasn't a quarterback hit. People have to remember, if you take a look at the routes, even with Norv Turner, with his offensive mind, we really only have like 1 or 2 guys open, if sometimes 2 on most routes. That interception he threw aiming at Chris Manhurst, there was nobody open on that route. Even Christian McCaffrey had somebody coming up under and went over him.
Yeah, I'm not so, I don't know. I got a bunch of texts about the Cam pick, about how he threw it into double and triple coverage. If you look at that, yeah, there's 2 or 3 guys there, but only one of them is actually close enough to make a play on the ball. And that touchdown's like inches away. Cam needed to put a little more on it and didn't. I'm not upset with his decision of where to throw it, which might sound surprising because I ripped him apart for forcing balls into Ian Thomas in the beginning of the year.
Right.
But I didn't hate the Manhurts play. How'd you feel about that?
I didn't hate the Manhurts play at all. I just hated the fact that it was Manhurts running a route.
I thought it was Ian Thomas when I saw the 8, and I was like, by the way, where is Ian Thomas? He's still on the roster, right? I mean,
he's on Ron Rivera's roster, and this is what you get.
And I know this is what you get. So no, you know what? You bring a good point there, because when Olsen was hurt and Manhurts was hurt, it was Ian Thomas. He was the number 1 tight end. He was the Greg Olsen, and I don't think he did a bad job.
He didn't. He made a mistake, but he's a rookie.
But then why did he completely lose his depth chart spot to Chris Manhurst?
Because he's on a Ron Rivera team. This is not new. I mean, Dan, we've been discussing this for almost 3 years now, man.
Yeah.
It's not new. This is what you get when you're on Ron Rivera's team, no matter how talented you are. It is not. They did not draft you to bring your talent to the team. They drafted you to hold your talent just in case they need you. Right. And everybody's so excited about, DJ's game last week, 7 catches, 157. Everybody's so excited about his 8 catches for 91 today. But the reality of it is we're only seeing him because Funchess is hurt and Torrey Smith didn't get his snaps.
Yeah.
You
start looking at the future of the Panthers, as I say. DJ Moore, 8 receptions with 9 targets, 91 yards. I think DJ Moore can be something special. Give him a couple years of experience. I know people rip him apart for his routes and whatever the all-22 stuff will tell you, but I think DJ Moore is a good receiver. They're just finding ways to get him the ball alone versus, and he's not the receiver that's going to go up for the ball and get it. It's weird that that's more Curtis Samuel at this point. Samuel, again, though, only 2 catches today, and both of them were big. He had a touchdown receiving, and he had the big run on the reverse, but pretty quiet for a lot of the game as well. I still don't know why Curtis Samuel doesn't seem to play a whole game. I know Jarius Wright's our kind of third down guy. He kind of had a quiet game today. 2 catches, 25 yards. Olsen only had 2 catches. Really mostly a Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore show today. How'd you feel about the receivers now without a Devin Funchess? Something that we might have to get used to seeing in 2019.
Let me share something with you. I think Brandon Cooks, the great year he had in New Orleans. I think Tyreek Hill, how great he's going to be and how special he's going to be. And then I think Curtis Samuel. I think about Curtis Samuel in the same light and in the same thought that I think about those 2 talented, very talented receivers. And I don't know if today was a preview of what we're going to see next year. I think we're in good hands. I would like to see Jarius Wright back next season. Of course, Damiere Byrd would have to step up with Funchess stepping out and, possibly being gone next season. I think we're in good hands. When you think about DJ Moore, you think about Curtis Samuel, you think about guys like Janke, Jarius Wright, you think about Damiere Byrd, and hopefully we'll see a Brenton Burson sighting in the future. But in all seriousness, when I think about the receiving core, those 4 guys, I'm totally okay with it because I know Christian McCaffrey will get 6 to 10 targets out of the backfield a game. I'm totally okay with it. I think that is our future. But I just don't get why Curtis Samuel is used like such an afterthought. Like he's not a running back. I understand the in and around reverses and the double in and around. I get it, but I do not understand why he isn't lined up more and used the way Torrey Smith is. The guy, every time he touches the ball, it's excitement.
Yeah.
I'm standing up, I'm clapping. The same with DJ Moore. DJ Moore I don't know who said what they said about DJ Moore's routes because that guy today was making moves on the field. And Curtis Samuel does the same. Did you see the slant Curtis Samuel ran in the end zone, how much space he had?
Yep.
It's
quick,
ridiculous. Man. Yeah, and I don't get it. Can you imagine?
I'm surprised he didn't score on that reverse, too. He had had a whole field. I don't know where that went wrong, but.
Yeah, he ran to the outside, similar to how Christian did, I believe. But, can you imagine an offense on the field, DJ, CMC, and I'm going to throw Ian Thomas out there because more than likely Greg Olsen isn't back next year, and Curtis Samuel. Can you imagine that? And maybe Damiere Byrd in the slot. Can you imagine that?
Well, speaking of Byrd, and I was going to say this too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I hate knocking a football player for being fragile while I watch on my couch, but it's true. I mean, Damiere Byrd, he comes in the game, he takes a hit or 2 and leaves. Do you agree with that Bird's wasting a roster spot? It could be, he's great, but could you maybe use another receiver next year?
Personally, I would love to see us, more than likely we're going away from Funchess. I mentioned Golden Tate the other day. I would love to see him in the Panthers uniform. I think he should be somebody we offer like a 2-year deal at. But yeah, if you can get somebody, yeah. But I don't think it's worth just letting him go because he gets injured. It's a lot of players in the NFL who constantly get injured, but they're still around because they can make plays.
Injured in the sense that he's literally just not there.
But I get it, but can we really say that because we know how injuries are held on this team? We know how much players are held back on this team. Can we legitimately say that he's seriously injured, or is it just the fact that they won't play him? I can't.
And you do need, and I was actually just going to say this, thanks for the comment on YouTube. I mean, you start rolling out people like Bird, Samuel, Moore, you do need a taller receiver, don't you? For those kinds of balls?
I mean, do we ever throw those balls? Do we ever draw up plays to Here's the thing, like, Cam Newton never said he needed a big receiver. That was Dave Gettleman saying, "Oh, Cam Newton throws the ball high. Let's get him tall receivers."
Well, there's a difference between saying I need a big receiver and I have all receivers that are like barely 6 feet. I think that like there is kind of a fine line there where when we say the Panthers might need height, I think you just need taller than what you have. You don't necessarily need.
Says who?
That's my debate. I think that it wouldn't hurt them.
No. I mean, we don't need. You only need height when you draw up plays for people with height.
Right. Well, that's the thing is that might go into the fact that why don't you throw the ball deep? Well, the only way you're going to get a deep ball to these guys is if they can completely burn their guy. You're not going to get that jump ball, that tough contested catch. Curtis Samuel does it pretty well, but I don't think that Damiere Byrd, and I don't know if DJ Moore are the guys that are going to do that. Do you need another guy that can do that? I don't know. That's my question.
No, I'm not with that. I mean, be completely honest with us, like somebody telling me, "Oh, you need a caravan." No, I don't need a caravan. I have 2 kids. If I plan on having 2 or 3 more, then maybe I will. But when you look at needing something, you have to plan for that. Yeah. Right? I'm not planning to have 2 or 3 more kids to need a caravan or to need an excursion. I don't need that. I'm perfectly fine with my sedan. My 4-door sedan, I can do what I need to do with what I have. And it's the same thing with this offense. We don't need anything that we don't draw up plays for. If it gets to the point where we need jump balls in the end zone, then maybe we might start talking about needing a taller receiver, but we don't run those type of plays. We don't call jump ball passes. Mm-hmm. We do not go down the point as to where we need wide receivers shielding off their cornerbacks because Cam can't throw a guy open. That's not the case.
Yeah.
We don't need that. Right? We're more of a speedy offense. And the fact that we're moving towards a speedy offense, we just need guys who are solid, who are built solid. People say Christian McCaffrey's undersized, but he's built very well for his size. People say DJ Moore's small. He's built very well for his size. People said the same thing about Steve Smith at 5'9", 185, but he was built well for his size. Mm-hmm. It's all about what you do with your size. We saw what happened when we thought we needed a big wide receiver. What did you get? I mean, we've been down this road before. I mean, you got a guy that's not even on the team anymore, and then you draft a tight end and force him to be a wide receiver in Devin Funchess. Yeah. It's not. You don't need anything that you don't need, if that makes sense. If you're not calling the plays for it, you don't need it.
So, Bobby, you and one of the comments I put up there was New England doesn't have a big receiver. Well, they have Rob Gronkowski, who literally will catch half the balls that are just thrown up in the air, period. So you do have that going for you. Bobby, you mentioned it earlier, Greg Olsen being gone next year.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if the Panthers have kind of a rough skid here. They're 3 in a row now. Say they don't make the playoffs. Let's just say that. Hope that's not true. What brings Greg Olsen back next year?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
There's nothing that can bring him back. I don't know if you guys remember, but this offseason we had a scare because we thought he was going to, do a Jason Witten on us.
Well, I think a lot of people would have rathered him do the Jason Witten as far as listening to Jason Witten. But, yeah, go ahead.
There you go. I don't think anything can save Greg Olsen. You can see it in his route running. You can see it in his frustration. He's frustrated with himself on the field. And when he dropped that ball in the end zone, you could see it all over his face. The camera just zoomed in on him. And Greg doesn't cuss much, but he was cussing. He was dropping F-bomb after F-bomb.
That was a decent play by Mingo, though.
It was, but the ball dropped in. It still dropped in on both of his thighs, and that's normally a play that Greg Olsen will corral and bring in. And he doesn't have the speed anymore. He's not getting open anymore. To get him the ball, you have to throw into contested coverage, and that's really, really tough, especially with a guy like Greg, who really hasn't ever had quick speed. Even in the wide open field, he was always kind of one of the slower guys on the field. But to see him losing a step, as people would say for long-term veterans, to see him losing a step, it kind of frustrates me. I told my son earlier, I was like, man, this is it for Greg. You can just tell. And he's the type of guy who's not going to say, I'm going to give it one more go. He's the type of guy that says, I've had a Hall of Fame career. Mm-hmm. I've done all that I can do. And me being on the field isn't going to contribute. It's going to take away from the offense. I'm going to go ahead and retire a Carolina Panther and go ahead and commentate these games.
I hate hearing that sentence, but
I mean, trust me when I tell you, Greg Olsen is one of my favorite players of all time. But it hurts. Even when he was in Chicago, I love the guy. But it hurts to see him at this point. It's kind of like, I don't want to contribute it to death, but it's kind of like watching somebody who's had a great life and you're like, man, they're just ready to go. That's kind of how it is looking at Greg. It's really tough to see him on the field with plays. You're like, he would have caught that. He would have broke on that linebacker a long time ago, and he's still trying to curve his route out. Like Cam tried to get him the ball earlier, but Greg ran such a long and wide route as to where he would have cut it off maybe 3 or 4 yards earlier, and it's just not. He just doesn't have it anymore. And Greg Olsen isn't a selfish guy to say, I want to come back again just to try. He's the guy that will hang it up before he looks horrible.
Yeah, one thing, I agree with you on that on Olsen. It's tough. One thing that just came through the comments, did the Seahawks have a sack today? They did not.
Zip zero.
No sacks today led up by the offensive line. Had a pretty better game by then. I think you were talking about blocking there with Olsen as well. There's definitely bright spots today, but hey, Panthers lose their first game of the season at home. That's their first home loss in, I don't know. Someone will have to dig that up for me. It's probably been a while. I know they were 25-8 or something, and since 2015. Mm-hmm. So, a tough one here. I think that like I said, that said he had to come out of here 3 or at least 3-1. They're 0-2. I think they're going to need some luck to sneak into the playoffs. Are they still in the wild card spot? I think that
they should be,
because
Green
Bay, especially if Green Bay beats Minnesota, Green Bay having that tie. That's how I see the Panthers getting in the playoffs. I don't see them doing it themselves, and hopefully, I think that Green Bay game's tonight too. So I think eyes will be on Green Bay to take down Minnesota, even them out. But then they're still right there, knocking at the door.
So just really quick, I want to pinch in real quick. You asked the question about them being wild card right now. NFL.com has Seahawks 7th seed, which of course secure that wild card spot. Panthers 8th seed, Eagles 9th, Packers 10th. And I'll just give you 2 more: Falcons and Bucks, believe it or not, at the 11th or 12th. And as much joking as we've done on the Bucks.
So wait, where are the Vikings? They must be in there.
They do not have the Vikings on this list at all.
Really?
They literally have Seahawks, Panthers, Eagles, Packers, Falcons.
The Vikings are ahead of the Packers in the division.
Yeah. Oh, wait. So that would put them – so they wouldn't be wild card, right?
No. So the Bears are winning that division. The Vikings are second in the division. The Packers are third in the division.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
I was reading the wrong list.
Yeah.
All right. So viewers, listeners,
whatever.
We'll
take that out of your pay.
Yeah, you'll dock my pay. Yeah. But so really quick, wild card. I apologize, guys. Wild card round right now. AFC, Ravens, Patriots, Chargers, Texans. NFC, Redskins, Bears, Vikings, and Cowboys. In the hunt, I do apologize. In the hunt are the Seahawks, Panthers, Eagles, and Packers. So that's where we are for wild card: Redskins, Bears, Vikings, and Cowboys. And of course, the Saints and the Rams are up there chilling. And in the hunt, Seahawks, Panthers, Eagles, Packers.
I hate it. So, I guess we'll have to see what happens tonight. Tonight will be a big one I think it's in Minnesota. So, I haven't checked on our picks. I did pick Seattle today, though. So
what's crazy is, do we root for the Saints Thursday night against the Cowboys? We technically have to root for the Saints.
At this point, and the same way that we did Thanksgiving, you want the Saints to just keep beating NFC teams.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's going to help us. And then we have to play the Saints twice. Can the Panthers squeeze that Monday night game at home out? Maybe.
I think so.
I don't know.
So.
If we have weather conditions, if it's pouring or something, maybe it'll snow in Charlotte. Who knows? And I think that's the only way they even have a chance. If it's a clear night,
crazy.
I don't know, man.
We're hoping for bad weather to beat Drew Brees and the Saints, man. That's crazy.
So that's their only chance. But that Atlanta game might be a must-win. You hate to see that.
Yeah.
That's always a tough one at BOA. So anyway, Panthers lose their first game of the season at home. Bobby, thanks for hopping on with me. Thanks for you guys on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and on TheRiotReport.com.
And Periscope.
And Periscope, yeah. We, for those of you that are joining in here for the first time, we do a podcast every week. It's out on Spotify, iTunes, all that fun stuff. Me, Bobby, Chris joins us. He's over at Peppa Jack NBB, and we do the post games here. So I will luckily get to go to Florida, because if it wasn't like a cold city, I don't know, Bobby. I don't know after today if I could do it, but I need a vacation after this game, so I'll take the Tampa trip. And I don't know. Just going from here, all the Panthers can do is win, and all that we can do is hope that the NFC teams beat up on each other, slide into that wild card, get healthy, bring Jackson back. I think Jackson plays this game. We're talking about a whole different outcome here, and unfortunately, that's the NFL. So
there you go.
Thanks for hopping on with us, guys. We'll talk to you later in the week. And getting tired of this losing thing. This is now 3 in a row. I think 4 might be the kicker. So we need something in Tampa. But thanks for joining in with us. Keep pounding, guys.
Keep pounding.